You know that moment when everything in your life feels like it's finally falling into place. That rare, quiet clarity where you look around and think, yeah, this is it. This is my person. That's exactly how I felt about Nika. She wasn't flashy. She didn't come from money. She didn't have some Ivy League degree or a last name that opened doors. But she had this laugh, loud, real, unfiltered, and the kind of eyes that saw you, really saw you. And for a guy like me, raised in a house full of sharp edges and whispered expectations, that kind of warmth was everything. We met at a bookstore. Yeah, seriously, she was sitting on the floor between two shelves, flipping through some beat-up poetry collection like it was a treasure map. I was looking for a gift for my sister. I ended up with a conversation that lasted 2 hours and a phone number written on a receipt I still keep in my wallet. It didn't take long before I knew I wanted her in my life. Not just as someone I dated. I wanted the boring stuff. Sunday mornings with coffee and errands, late-night grocery runs, holidays with her sleepy smile next to mine. But my parents? They didn't see what I saw. To them, Nika was underwhelming. She didn't go to the right schools. She worked as a freelance illustrator. No 401k, no corner office, no pedigree. She didn't have the polish they expected from someone worthy of their son. My mom called her sweet, the way you describe a waitress who brought the wrong order. My dad, he barely looked at her when we spoke about her over dinner. Just kept saying things like, "Don't rush into anything serious, son. You're still young. Keep your options open." Options. Like Nika was some temporary fling. And I get it. I was raised in a family where appearances were everything. Where your partner had to be a social asset. A resume addition. Love, that was the fluff they saved for speeches and anniversary parties. But what they didn't understand, what they never wanted to understand, was that Nika gave me something I never had growing up. Peace. And maybe that's why I didn't see what was coming next. Because I thought love was enough. I thought if I just held on tight, eventually they'd see her the way I did. Turns out, they saw her as a threat. And they were already making moves to erase her from my life. One polite, poisonous smile at a time. I should have known things were about to shift the moment I brought Nika to dinner at my parents' house for the first time. My mom answered the door in pearls and perfume, with that kind of tight smile she used when something displeased her, but she didn't want to make a scene. "Nika," she said, drawing the name out like it was a foreign word that didn't sit right in her mouth. "How lovely to finally meet you." Nika smiled, because of course she did. She was polite, warm, genuinely trying. She brought a bottle of wine she couldn't really afford and complimented the roasted duck like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. And for a while, things were civil. But then came the questions. "Oh, you're an illustrator? That's creative. And how exactly do you make a living from that? You rent, I assume? That neighborhood's gotten a little rough lately, hasn't it? And your parents, what do they do again?" Every comment was dipped in honey and sharpened with a knife's edge. My dad sat there mostly quiet, nodding like a king surveying his court, only chiming in to remind me that my cousin just got accepted into Stanford Law, and wasn't it time I thought about grad school too? I tried to defend her, subtly, at first. I brought up her commissions, how she'd just landed a children's book project. But my mother's eyes glazed over like I was talking about a hobby, not a career. The subtext was loud. This girl doesn't belong here. Not in this house. Not in our world. And not with our son. After dinner, as we got in the car, Nika looked over at me and gave a soft laugh. "So your mom hates me, huh?" I gripped the wheel. "She doesn't hate you. She's hard to impress." Nika nodded, but I could see it in her eyes. That little flicker of hurt. That moment when hope dims just a bit. She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She just got quiet. And I hated that. Because I knew how powerful my parents could be when they didn't like someone. They didn't fight with fists. They used silence, manipulation, pressure. And they had this way of making you doubt your own choices until you didn't even know who you were anymore. I promised myself I'd protect her from that. But protecting her meant choosing sides. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. It started with small things. My mom would accidentally leave out articles about successful couples, ones where both partners had Ivy League degrees or ran businesses together. She even mailed me a book once, Love Smart, Choosing the Right Partner for a Successful Life. Inside, she'd underlined passages. I didn't even open it. I threw it in the trash. But Nika saw it. She didn't say a word, just stared at the unopened envelope in the bin, her mouth pressed into a line. I don't care what she thinks, I told her. She smiled again, that quiet, too tired smile. I know, she said, but I do. The thing is, Nika didn't grow up with people like my parents. Her family was loud and chaotic, sure, but they were warm, messy, and proud of her no matter what. My parents? They believed love was something you earned with a resume. You had to qualify to be loved. And Nika? She didn't qualify. That's when the real sabotage began. My mother invited me to dinner, just me, said it was important. When I got there, she had that same look she always did when she was about to deliver bad news in a polite way. I asked a friend to look into Nika's background, she said, as if that was completely normal behavior. My stomach dropped. She has some debts. Nothing serious, but she's clearly not stable. And do you really want to carry someone for the rest of your life, darling? You're already working so hard. I didn't ask you to investigate her. No, you didn't. But I care. And I see the long game. She's sweet, I'm sure. But she's not a wife for someone like you. It was like being slapped with a smile. That night, I didn't tell Nika about the conversation. I didn't want to upset her. I thought I was protecting her. But I should have known. She felt the shift. The distance crept in slowly. I started hesitating before bringing her to family events. She stopped suggesting she come along. I told myself it was temporary, that they'd warm up eventually. But families like mine, they don't warm up. They freeze people out. By Thanksgiving, everything felt off. My parents invited us both, but something in the tone of the invitation screamed, "This is a test." Nika didn't want to go. She said she had a weird feeling, and honestly, I did too. But I convinced her, told her it'd be fine, that maybe if she just came and showed them who she really was, they'd change their minds. God, I was naive. Dinner started out stiff, like always, polite smiles, backhanded compliments. My mom complimented Nika's dress, but added, "It's so brave of you to wear such a bold color with your complexion." My dad asked her if she was still between jobs, even though he knew she was working part-time and studying at night. Nika held it together. She always did. But the real blow came later. Over dessert, my mom poured herself a glass of wine and looked Nika dead in the eye. "I have to ask," she said, swirling her Chardonnay like we were in a courtroom instead of her dining room. "What's your endgame here?" I choked on my coffee. "Mom." "No, really," she continued, like she was asking something totally reasonable. "Do you plan to get a real job eventually? Or are you hoping to settle into the role of, let's call it a permanent +1? Silence. Nika looked down at her lap. I could see her hands trembling slightly, her fork abandoned beside the untouched pie. Her voice was calm, but cold when she finally spoke. I didn't realize love had to be negotiated like a business deal. My mom smiled, satisfied. "Everything in life is a deal, sweetheart. Smart women know that." That's when Nika stood up. Not dramatically, quietly. She placed her napkin on the table like a resignation letter and said, "Thank you for dinner." I followed her outside, stammering apologies. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just looked at me like someone who'd finally seen a truth they didn't want to accept. "I can't keep walking into rooms where I'm not wanted," she said softly. "They'll come around," I said, desperate. "They just need time." She shook her head. "No, you need time to figure out whose side you're on." And then she got in a cab and left. That was the night I realized I had let my parents build a wall between us, brick by brick, smile by smile, until love had no room left to breathe. The apartment felt different without her. Her shoes weren't by the door. The blanket she always wrapped herself in while watching Netflix was folded neatly on the couch, untouched. There was no smell of her peppermint shampoo drifting from the bathroom, no sound of her humming when she made coffee. Just silence. Thick, punishing silence. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that she'd come back, that maybe she just needed space. A few days passed, then a week, then two. I sent texts, called, left voicemails. Most went unanswered. When she finally did reply, it was one line. I'm not ready to talk yet. I didn't tell anyone we'd separated, especially not my parents. They'd only see it as a win. At work, I pretended everything was fine, laughed at stupid jokes, sent emails, took meetings. But the truth was, I was unraveling quietly, one thread at a time. One night, after way too many drinks, I found myself standing outside her new apartment building. I had no idea how I even got there. Muscle memory, I guess. Her window was dark. I didn't go up. I just stood there like some idiot hoping she'd appear, like a movie scene with a happy ending cued by violins. But there was nothing. Just cold wind and the sharp realization that I had lost her. Meanwhile, my parents acted like everything was finally back on track. You look less stressed these days, my mom noted during one of our brunches. Being with the right kind of person really affects your energy. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded and picked at my eggs. I was too tired to argue, too ashamed to admit that the person who brought me the most peace had left because I didn't protect her when it mattered most. I started having dreams, the kind that mess with your head. In one of them, Nika was standing in our old kitchen, wearing her favorite oversized sweater, making pancakes. She turned to smile at me, and just as I reached for her, she vanished. I woke up with tears on my cheeks. That's when I realized this wasn't just a breakup. It was grief. Real, brutal, hollowing out your ribs kind of grief. Because I hadn't just lost Nika. I had lost the version of myself that existed when I was with her. The one who laughed more, listened better, felt everything deeper. And I didn't know how to get him back. It was my sister who finally said it out loud. The thing I'd been too scared to admit to myself. You were never really you when you were around them. She told me over coffee one Sunday. You were performing. Like, trying to pass some test you never even signed up for. She was right. And I hated how much it hurt to hear it. My sister, Liz, had always been the bold one. The one who cut off toxic friends like dead branches and never apologized for living life on her terms. She'd stayed quiet through most of my relationship with Nika, watching from the sidelines while I bent myself into the version of a son my parents approved of. But now, something about my silence, the empty way I said, "I'm fine," every time she asked, must have cracked the dam. "You love her?" she asked, blunt as ever. I nodded. Couldn't say the words without my voice breaking. Then why the hell did you let them ruin it? The truth was ugly. Because I'd been conditioned to choose approval over authenticity. Because I was terrified of being seen as ungrateful. Because I didn't want to be the family disappointment. Again. But now, I was living with the consequences. And no amount of silence, whine, or half-hearted apologies could fix it. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by Nika's old books. I'd never return them. My fingers lingered over the dog-eared pages, her tiny notes in the margins like whispers from another life. Something broke open in me. I grabbed my phone and started typing. A message. Raw. Honest. No edits this time. I never defended you the way you deserved. I was scared, not of you, but of losing the version of myself my parents approved of. I chose them over us, and I hate myself for it. I miss you. Every damn day. Not just your presence, but the way you made me better, stronger. I don't know if you'll ever want to talk to me again. But if you do, I'll be here. I'll wait. And I'll fight. This time, I won't flinch. I didn't hit send right away. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I closed my eyes, breathed in, and pressed send. The message was delivered. Read. Then silence. 2 weeks passed. I told myself not to hope, Not to count the hours since I'd sent the message, not to reread it 50 times a day. But I did. Every single day. Then, late one Thursday night, my phone buzzed. Just one word. Coffee. I stared at the screen so long I forgot to breathe. We met at the little corner cafe we used to go to after work. She picked the place, neutral ground. I got there early, hands trembling, heart doing somersaults. When she walked in, everything inside me went still. Nika looked the same, but not. She looked stronger, calmer. There was a peace in her eyes that hadn't been there when we were together, and it hit me. She'd healed. Without me. And I didn't know if I still had a place in her world. I almost didn't respond, she said, sitting across from me. But something in your message, it felt real. Like you finally saw it. All of it. I do, I said. Too late, maybe. But I do. She nodded, then was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that hit harder than any insult my parents ever threw at her. They broke you too, didn't they? I blinked. She wasn't accusing me. She was seeing me. And it wrecked me. We talked for hours. Not about getting back together. Not yet. But about what went wrong, what I let happen, how I let them shape me into someone I barely recognized. And then we talked about what healing looked like. For her. For me. Separately. Maybe someday together. And while that conversation was happening, fate was preparing its final card. 2 days later, my parents called me in a panic. They'd lost everything. A failed investment. Legal trouble. My father's close friend had swindled him, and now they were facing foreclosure. Suddenly, the same son who had once been a disappointment was their last hope. They wanted to move in with me. My first instinct was to laugh. But I didn't. I met them for dinner. Neutral ground, like Nika had taught me. And for the first time in my life, I looked my father in the eye and didn't flinch. I'm sorry for what you're going through, I said. But I won't sacrifice my peace for your comfort. Not anymore. They were stunned. My mother teared up. My father went red with rage. But I stood up, placed my wallet on the table, and walked out. Outside, the city buzzed like it was proud of me. And when I looked at my phone, there was a message from Nika. Proud of you. Truly. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was the start of something new. And this time, I was walking into it as me. Not the version they wanted, the one I was finally done performing.